Welcome to Animorphs Anonymous, the podcast where we casually discuss the Animorphs one book at a time.
I'm Kaycie.
And I'm Alex.
And we're going to talk you through the plot of each book.
But more accurately, take you on tangent trips, factoid forays, and say, well, actually, as much as possible.
Join us on the 1st and the 15th of each month, and we'll take you along on our mission.
And we promise to have you back under the 2-hour time limit.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a grave announcement to make. Incredible as it may seem, both the observations of science and the evidence of our eyes lead to the inescapable assumption that those strange beings who landed in the Jersey farmlands tonight are the vanguard of an invading army.
Share that GIF with me now, finally.
Oh, okay. I have it already. It's coming. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm worried you're going to be disappointed because I use this GIF all the time because it's very applicable, but I especially felt it with this book.
Yeah.
Like, the entire fucking book.
Yeah.
I'm like, why is this happening?
Yeah. Now I know what to get you for the next holiday because there's a belt that says this.
Everything hurts and I'm dying.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Everything hurts and I'm dying.
Yep.
.com.
Oh god. Yeah, this book was very rough. Yeah. Holy fucking hell. This was the closest I came to crying in an Animorphs book. Like, I had tears in my eyes at one point.
Oh.
Fucking kill me.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. I think that means it was successful.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely... The whole feeling throughout this whole book was that things were, like, ramping up and very intense and, like, everything is super fast-paced, like, really overwhelming at all times. But yeah. Do I ask you now what part you cried at, or will you tell me?
I'll tell you later.
Okay, because I have a guess.
Okay. Fuck.
I'll keep it to myself.
This book was just made so much worse by the fact that it was Axe, my favorite baby boy.
Yeah. And there was a lot of exposition about, like, alien politics versus human politics.
Mm-hmm. And kind of feeling like he has a foot in both worlds, but he doesn't, Oh, no. Oh.
I guess the place to start today, because I feel like once we get rolling into this book, we're not going to stop.
Yeah, it's pretty constant. It's a runaway train of despair.
It is. So let's talk about our author, and then...
Oh, yeah.
Let's do it. So this one was Elise Donner, who we saw do 30 The Reunion, and I'm quickly scanning. I think that was the only other time
that was a Marco book.
Her. Yes. That's where he runs into his mother in the office building, and they...
Oh, yeah, and the mountain goat.
Yeah.
So, another very emotionally compromising book.
Yeah, another really, really intense book.
Okay. Yep.
She did not fail this time around either.
No. Wow.
Wow is right. I almost said any last thoughts before we get into this book. Any first thoughts before we get into this book?
I'll be interested to see what you thought about all the characters and whether or not they were in character. Because there were times I felt like something was off, but I wasn't quite sure what it was. And, like, it's not too distracting because, like, there's so much action going on, but I don't know. I'm interested to see what you think at the end when we do character ratings.
I agree with that for sure, and I'm thinking one person in particular.
Okay.
But I'll put an asterisk disclaimer right up top here. There was so much action and stuff in the book that I didn't spend a lot of time talking about the characters' exact interactions.
Yeah.
And my notes are already just brushing 8 pages, like a paragraph into 8 pages. So, like, and that's without, like, a lot of the character interaction happening. So
Yeah.
there's mentions of it, but yeah, I think we'll probably have to dissect it a little more
Sure.
in the character ratings.
Cool.
Cool.
Let's do it.
Well, this book opens exactly where we left off last book, with Jake talking to the Andalites. Ah, so cool.
Yeah, I loved that.
Me too. Like, this has never happened to us before.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, I loved it. He's announcing himself as the Resistance on Earth, and Jake tells the Andalite that the Anati planet was a decoy. They are hiding Draken cannons in the asteroid fields, and they plan to take out the majority of the Andalite fleet. The Andalite, on the other end of this communication, treats Jake with suspicion, saying he expects that they're lying to him out of desperation because he knows their situation on Earth, and they think basically he's trying to trick them. So Axe asks permission at this point to step in, and Jake grants it, and he says to the Andalite that what Jake says is true. They got it directly from Visor 1, whose host they captured and liberated, and they've destroyed the Yerk. And the Andalite kind of considers this for a moment, and then he says, the brother of war, Prince Elfangor, deserves to be heard, so they will take this to the council, but reports of Axe's actions have reached the Andalite homeworld, and they think that his loyalties might be a little confused. And right then is when Tobias goes, let's get out of here, there's bug fighters on the way, we gotta move now. So they cut the transmission. Jake tells Axe to grab this transmission box while everybody goes to their birds of prey morph. They gotta get out of there because not only now do they not want anybody seeing that they're kids, but also remember Marco's dead, so nobody can see Marco. Mm-hmm. The last thing Jake yells is for Axe and Tobias to not let them get the communicator. Axe grabs it, runs over the dunes. He and Tobias are cut off by 2 controllers with Draken beams. Tobias swoops in, takes one out, and Axe knocks the other guy out with his tail blade, and they take off. And that is chapter 1.
Hooray! Fucking Andalites.
Fucking Andalites. And, like, holy shit.
I do like that they brought back the whole, like, Axe loyalty thing from, like, way the fuck back in the series. When he said, yes, I gave the Animorphs the morphing power.
And, like, the fact that that's coming back to bite him in the ass now, because...
Yeah.
Oh my god. Between that and, like, I'm assuming the Andalites that came to Earth with Estrid were also reported probably some behaviors that weren't
the ones that
great.
lived. But yes.
Yeah, the ones that lived. But they're criminals. How much could it possibly mean?
Yeah. I guess status really matters in the Andalite community.
Yeah.
This also answered my questions about Visor 1 last book, because I was like, I thought she went to a different system. How did she get back here? But you summed that up in the first fucking page, so thank you, Animorphs.
That's why we're doing it one book at a time.
Right.
Yeah. I don't remember what I told you, but it was probably something like, I don't know, maybe they got promoted.
Yeah, because you knew.
Yes, I did.
Cool.
But I also think I very seriously told you a long time ago that I don't ever remember meeting Visor 2. And that stood, like, when we started reading this book, I'm like, oh yeah, we do meet Visor 2. But it was just such a, like, non-important thing in my mind that I had forgotten completely.
Visor 2 has one character trait. So.
Visor 2 and 2 other characters surrounding him in that moment are all interchangeable to me. Like,
yeah, I was confused half the time.
Yeah, and especially when they're like, let's start calling them by name. I'm like, how about let's not? Like, fuck.
Yeah.
Although I did remember one. I'm just gonna spoil this. One of the characters' names is Plumber, Captain Plumber, and I definitely read Christopher Plummer every single time.
Me too!
Excellent. Which I think is appropriate because he was a captain. So I'm just waving my arms around, which is really good audio.
Yep. Okay, good. I'm so glad you thought that, because I also thought that.
I did. So anyways, yeah, I guess we do at some point in the series meet Visor 2. Not that it fucking matters, but okay.
Well.
Okay. Let's keep going on this nonstop goddamn thrill ride. So, Axe is hanging out in his and Tobias's scoop. It is now a shared domicile, from what I'm understanding.
Roommates! Oh
Me
my god,
too.
they were roommates.
And they were roommates.
Shorms forever.
Doing stuff together. Oh my god. Anyways, so they're hanging out in their scoop. And Marco's also there, being very agitated and changing all the channels repeatedly and flipping through literally hundreds of channels because it is mentioned multiple times that Axe has broken into all of cable. And, like, can get any
HBO.
channel. He's got HBO. He's got Stars. He's got Cinemax. I don't know if any of these were around in the 90s or if they cost money, but here we are.
Pretty sure HBO was around, because I think that was Sopranos era. So.
I've never watched The Sopranos.
I have not either.
I know there's a scene with a horse head in a bed.
That is The Godfather, I believe.
Fuck.
But, you know, they're both mafia, so it makes sense.
Are you sure? Really?
I'm pretty sure.
I mean, I believe you. I believe you wholeheartedly because I know nothing. It's just I have to rewire everything I've ever thought about this now.
The only reason I know about the horse head in the bed is because Hey Arnold did a parody episode of The Godfather, and the kid had a rocking horse, and the guy put the rocking horse head in the bed.
Do you know how many people are screaming at their podcast app right now?
Sorry, everyone, we don't watch things. We just watch fucking Free Willy and Lord of the Rings over and over.
And Fly Away Home. I can
Yes.
answer any questions about Fly Away Home.
And Jurassic Park.
And Jurassic Park. That being said, I've not seen Fly Away Home since we graduated, so...
I feel like you flew yourself home outed. That was really badly phrased.
I would watch it if it were on TV, though.
Anna Paquin.
Anna Paquin, she's fucking amazing. Anyways, okay, so... Which, by the way, I only got into Anna Paquin because of X-Men, and I loved her in X-Men so much, and I only got into X-Men because of Animorphs, because Iceman was Jake.
It all connects.
It all comes together in the end. This is why... Never mind. Okay, moving on. So, Marco is ranting about how complacent everyone in the world is and how nobody expects a world war, and if they just walked up to the average person on the street and said anything about fighting a war, they'd all be laughed at because everybody is just stupid and awful.
Which is harsh in hindsight because, like, fucking the Iraq invasion happened, like, a few years later.
There was so many things happened in this book where I was like, oh man, like... so much of this takes on a different meaning reading it in 2020. Like,
Oh no! Fucking they stopped the Yerk
predicted
invasion.
war.
Well, I bet they fucking stopped the Yerk invasion, and then September 11th happened. It was like, can I not cut a break here?
Oh no!
Why is everyone fucking terrible? Anyway,
There is a really, not to again derail, but I will and then bring it right back. But there is a really interesting Radio Lab that just came out recently about how it's like called 60 Words, and it was about the thing that was signed into power right after September 11th that allowed the president to declare war, and how like it's so open-ended that it was supposed to only be about September 11th, but like that's how like presidents have still been able to use like military force to go in and like execute people with drones and shit. It's really interesting. Yeah.
hooray!
Anyway, so that's my recommendation. Radio Lab, 60
Don't tell
words.
the current administration about this.
They already know. That's how he got in and was able to kill that guy with a drone strike.
Hooray!
Yeah, he's
everybody.
He's using this addendum. Anyways,
Let's repeal that shit.
there was
Anyway.
only one person to vote against it in all of the Senate. So, and she was interviewed, and she's very cool. Anyways, moving right along.
Okay.
So, Marco's rant is interrupted by a garbled transmission coming from Axe's new iMac.
I died. It's got the fucking clamshell colored iMac. Oh my god.
What color do you think he got?
I mean, he mentions it later, right?
Does he? I didn't write it down if he did.
Yeah, it's lime.
Aww.
He got green.
Oh, of course he did. And this is my favorite mention, one of my favorite mentions of the book, where he goes like, oh, Rachel got it for me on her credit card. She informs me I owe her big time in quotation marks. Like, he doesn't know what owes her big time means, but he just thought it was worth mentioning in this moment.
Yes. And he said several months of her credit card allowance. And I'm like, how many is several? How much allowance does Rachel fucking get? Because those IMAX were like at least $1,000.
Yeah, but
at the
like,
time, I believe.
Her dad's probably siphoning her pity money for the divorce.
Oh, yeah.
So.
I'm not around anymore.
So you can have $300 a month. And she's probably like, no, I'll have to buy like 10 less outfits.
God.
Anyways, Axe owes her big time.
Yes.
And Marco goes, what was that? And Axe is like, well, I've been working on this program using the technology that Marco's dad assisted him with. And he's like, I do always believe in giving credit where credit is due, even if it is with a human man.
Aw, kind of sweet, I guess.
So cute. So basically they've created an interceptor that listens in on locally sourced Yerk transmission. But unfortunately, due to the limitations in technology, it's only successful about 30% of the time. And that's when they hear a few sentences about Visor 1's plan and Visor 2 coming in, blah, 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 the council commending it, and how pending approval, they're going to move forward. And all three of them are like, oh, what?
This is a lot.
This is so much. And then, instead of cutting to the barn now, what happens? Which, again, like, first time ever, Axe is like, I hate this technology. This sucks. I can't get anything done on this computer. And he's like, I just can't make it work with what we have here. And Marco's like, well, this iMac is a toy for idiots. And it's not a government supercomputer. Marco's really talking a lot of sense in this book, and I appreciated it.
Yes.
They're like, if we break into the government supercomputer, we'd have a lot more power at our disposal. And Axe is like, okay, like, that makes sense. Let's break into it. And then Marco's like, we can't fucking break into it. Are you insane? Like, he's like, that's not right. And we'll get thrown in jail if the NSA finds out. Real jail time. And Axe is like, it is very frustrating when humans flip-flop on their stances, and it always seems to happen around this thing called the situation, in quotation marks, or circumstances. And then he goes to Marco, and he goes, hey, Marco, what about when you said that nothing is right anymore, and we're just going to have to make it amends after the war? And Marco, instead of arguing a point back, just goes, do you know how annoying it is to quote someone's own words back to them?
Yes.
Yes,
although,
I do.
to be fair, it would be really easy for them to break out of prison, I'm just saying.
And also their children, they would not go to prison.
Yeah.
They would go to juvie, which I think you can just walk out of, basically.
Yeah.
So, it would all be fine.
Unless they got tried as adults.
I don't think they could be tried as... Because don't you have to be a minimum age to be tried as an adult?
I don't know. I'm thinking about those girls that stabbed their friend in the name of Slender Man. Because I
Yeah,
think they were only like 12 and they got tried as adults. But that was a, very different sort of crime, but yes.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't murder. She didn't die, but...
Yeah, but it was attempted murder.
Attempted murder, yeah.
Which for a 12-year-old, that's pretty heavy, but that's neither here nor there. Da-da-da-da-da-da.
I just got lost in this whole thing. That was one of the murders that, when I saw My Favorite Murder live, they did. So, anyways, they decide they have to break into the NSA computers. Axe writes up a program in like 20 minutes and proceeds to hack into the database while securing them, blah, blah, blah. After a few tense moments where Marco and Tobias keep asking him, what is happening? Because, like, it's a very intense, like, computer hacking scene for Axe, but both Marco and Tobias are just literally watching him, like, calmly type on the computer. So they're both like, what the fuck? And then, in the best moment of all time, Tobias goes, Axe, you sure this is secure and they're not going to be able to trace it back to us? Axe just slowly and dramatically turns one stalk eye towards Tobias.
I love that.
And Tobias apologizes.
Loved it.
I love that so much. So once Axe gets in, they use their more powerful computers to run the Yerk transmissions through. They find out that Visor 3 is now Visor 1, and Visor 2 is on his way to Earth to see this plan into action. And they get a bunch of numbers. Now the kids meet up at the barn.
Yay.
Now that they have evidence, now that they've taken action, and I am loving this new world. They meet at the barn. Marco tells everybody what they heard. And he is telling them about the transmission, about Visor 3's promotion of Visor 1. So everybody who listens to this podcast that doesn't read the books, Visor 3 is now Visor 1. In red lights, Visor 3 is Visor 1. So
Hooray.
this same guy, new title.
That's going to get confusing.
I mean, it will, but at least it's not like the hork-bajir Chronicles, because it's not like we're going to flip-flop back and forth.
Oh,
like,
that's
he
true.
stays Visor 1.
I'm fucking Visor 36.
Yeah,
Now I'm
sub
Visor
Visor
3.
32.
Because apparently promotion is very arbitrary.
Yes, it is. I mean, if you can get promoted only for stealing a pretty rad host body, there's no, business plan to move through the ranks here, or, a guide to help you get promoted to where you want to go. This isn't corporate America. Yeah, so Visor 3 is Visor 1. They're concerned about what this means for their future. They're like, what the fuck are we gonna do? This means that the open warfare plan is probably gonna happen. And so they try coming up with, what do Yerks fear? Because we have to have some advantage. And Marco's like, well, they still don't have the resources that humans do, and hope. And Rachel's like, you cannot win a war with hope. And Marco's like, yeah, you're right, you can't win a war with hope. And then Marco's like, and like it or not, we have no space weapons. So if the humans go to war with the Yerks, which is, by the way, 14 steps down this fucking road, there's no way that they can fight it, because humans don't have any space force until recently, America, where we've started Starfleet for some reason.
Oh, yeah.
The Yerks would still win. Yerks are more powerful. Anyways. This is 20 years down the line. We need not speak of this. Marco also mentions that, the Yerks only need a portion of humans because, the reason they like humans as a species is because of their sheer numbers, but there are still more humans, way more humans than Yerks, so they could just openly slaughter people that were not controllers, and it would still be fine for the Yerks. And Jake kind of derails at this point. He goes, Axe, do you think the Andalite fleet is going to come? And this brought this huge, kind of churning of emotions within Axe. He is like, I had hoped to go back to my own people one day and live on my own planet and maybe have my own family, but I
with
also
Estrid.
He does mention Estrid. He name drops Estrid, but that's the only female Andalite he's seen in the past,
The
however
only
long.
girl in the whole world.
Literally the only girl in the whole world, and she's not even in the world anymore.
Also, she's crazy.
Hey, I mean, we've all been there, right?
They'd have some super smart babies, though.
Oh my god. Terrifyingly smart. And would like Cinnabon. Anyways.
Anyways, yes.
Yeah, so it brings this whole thing about in Axe how he's he wants to say yes, his people will come, but he's not happy with anything that had happened with his own people, and he doesn't have the same confidence with them anymore since being exiled on Earth, and he loves his friends on Earth, and he considers them a family as well, but he's uncomfortable with humanity as a whole. And they bring up the time travel book, the Megamorphs, where they hop through time. And so he's like, the horror and the brutality and the history of what humans have done is also unacceptable, and I don't know what to do. And he takes so long thinking through this that Jake again asks him, Axe, do you think the Andalites are coming? And Axe answers, I honestly do not know. Which is crazy.
Oh.
Yeah. Because this, for 46 goddamn books, we have been fighting based on the fact that the Andalites were coming, and we are holding out until they get here.
Yeah, that's been the main source of hope, and now it might not even happen.
Yeah. That's huge.
It's so heavy. Oh my god.
Yeah. And this is like a few chapters into the book. Like, this is our starting point that we're framing the rest of this book within.
And it's so... What follows is just so fucking, like, compelling and good and realistic about what would happen in that situation. And I love it so much. And I hate it, but I love it.
Yeah. So this is one chapter where I tried to sum it up, but please add to this whatever stuck out to you as well, because I don't think I captured all of it. So I'll just go through it and then add to my story, please.
Okay.
So at this moment, all of the Animorphs start to take a stand. Jake declares that the Yeerks want Earth. They are moving to take it now, but he does not want them to have it. He doesn't want to give in. And all of the team round tables, and they go to each member who contributes to their stance on how they have to hope that the Yeerks are moving to take over, but it really feels as though at this moment they're at a tipping point. And now is the time that they have to throw everything they have at the Yeerks. Mm-hmm. They're hoping that if they could hit back hard enough now, they might be able to stop a worse fate. And Marco reminds Axe, like, oh, hey, hand over the numbers from that transmission they heard earlier. And he gives it to Jake, and both Jake and Marco agree these are coordinates and times. So they look into it, the coordinates being about 20 miles out to sea. And after some hesitation, Jake goes, well, there's only one way we're going to get there in time, because the time that is listed with these coordinates is 7 and 9 hours away. There's 2. And that the morph that they need to get there is human. And most of the team is on board. But Cassie pushes back. She's like, no, we can't do that. I don't think that now is the time to abandon our morals. We've come this far without giving in. We cannot give that up. And Jake goes over to her and grabs her hands, and he just continues to hold her hands and tells her, you're right, but we're at a tipping point right now. And I think that we're right about this, and I think that we have to push back, and we can't give up now, because I can't not do anything. We have to move to save people. And if open warfare happens, whole cities would die. We're talking acquiring one person or a few people without their permission to save many people. This is something we have to do. And Cassie is kind of arguing back throughout this speech, but once he gets to the end of it, she doesn't agree, but she says if there's someone she trusts to do what's right, it's him. And Axe is uncomfortable watching all of this, and he can't help but be amazed at how humans, his friends, can devise a plan while still arguing from both moral sides of the coin. And he also kind of muses on the fact that the whole fate of the world is in the moral areas of a bunch of children. And this gray area plan, it reminds him more of the Andalites than the humans. The whole we have to do this thing and sacrifice our morals because of war. This all ends with Marco agreeing with Cassie that they trust Jake, but then he turns to Rachel and says, you, not so much, and she flips him the bird.
Yay!
That's a fucking intense chapter.
Yeah. Fuck. Wow.
Yeah. Like, in this one chapter, that took so many plot points of so many books we've read and just turned it on its head.
The only thing that made me kind of go, wait, but was they have acquired and morphed humans before. The only one I can think of was during the David Saga where they got that bodyguard. Like, they didn't, like, do anything with it because they were planning on, like, jumping out of the column with it, but they ultimately didn't end up using it.
Yeah.
So I think that might be kind of the main exception there, but, like, I thought there was, like, one other point where they morphed a human. And not counting Cassie morphing Rachel.
Yeah, I feel like every time they have up until this point, and, like, I'm blanking. Like, I think you're right, but I'm totally blanking on the situation you're talking about. But I think for the most part it's been, like, relatively with permission of some sort, or, like, with some sort of caveat attached to it. As opposed to, like, what they're doing now, which is, like, acquire whoever's convenient and go for it.
Yeah, like, they go super balls to the walls with this now. Yeah, I'm, like, you know, I identify with Cassie as a character kind of the most, but in this moment, when Rachel was like, oh, fuck yeah, finally, I was like, I agree with Rachel. I'm really excited to see where this goes.
Yeah, Rachel is, hell yeah, finally we get to do this thing. Mm-hmm. And I think this is one of the first books where we see multiple instances of, like, Rachel flips him off, and it says, like, makes a rude hand gesture, or, like, so-and-so swore, and I was told it's a word you can't say in polite company. Like, we're seeing a lot of, like, shit go down.
Yeah, they're just, it kind of adds to the idea that they're just now doing things with, like, reckless abandon.
Yeah, it does. It super does.
And it's so kind of minor, but it just kind of adds to it, and it's, yeah, very compelling.
It, like, adds an edge. Like, not only, like, we can tell in every action that they're starting to fray more and more, and this is part of it.
Yeah.
I will say here, and probably a few other times, this is the start of where, like, I'm not sure I believe Cassie would roll over this easily.
Okay.
And I don't know if this is part of a larger conversation that has been happening throughout the books between Jake and Cassie, and we're kind of seeing, like, a few, like, sparks of it or endpoints of it. But, like, once Cassie was like, I trust you to do the right thing, I totally believe she would say that. I totally believe that she believes that. It just felt like the argument happened in hyperspeed. Like, it should have taken a little longer between them.
Yeah.
Then again, we made this whole fan fiction up in the Tobias book about this, so let's subscribe to my own theories here, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, shall we move on?
I guess so. Let's start getting crazy.
This is where the action starts, and it never stops.
It really doesn't.
Axe walks into the locker room at the Air Force Base, interrupting a rousing conversation about retirement funds.
Hooray.
Hooray!
Adults are boring.
Adults are super boring. And yet I was like, wait a minute, go back to that conversation because that was my retirement plan. And now I've realized I got my retirement plan from Animorphs.
Wow, that's amazing.
Did not realize that till he said it.
Wow.
But yeah, so all that shit talking about withholding some money in case shit goes south and you're making risky investments. Yeah, that is a good idea. Fuck everyone who said otherwise. Not the point. There are two people in this room, a man who went to scream as he saw Axe, and Axe immediately knocks him out, and a woman who hissed Andalite, and Axe replied, Yerk, before knocking her out into Marco's arms.
Andalite! Yerk.
It was so badass.
I know! Oh, Axe.
Yeah, Axe then gives the all clear for the other Animorphs to demorph because there's no one else in this locker room, and they grow from fleas into themselves. Axe acquired the male pilot, and it's decided that Rachel is going to acquire the female pilot because she has, in quotations, nerves of steel, which Axe later speculates still will not help her fly a plane. But whatever. So, Axe talks about how this morph gave him some hesitation, but it wasn't from the perspective of, I want to get permission from him, or like this is a sentient creature and I feel like I can't invade his space and do this to him. It was more like, I don't want to be a human because being a human gives me such a sense of belonging, and I don't know if I want to feel that right now.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I hope this isn't foreshadowing. Oh my god, that was so powerful. Ugh.
It was, like, I think it was so powerful for a few different reasons, because on one hand, it's like, he's respecting the whole sentient rule that his friends have come up with, but that's not where he's coming from in this moment, and I loved that difference. Mm-hmm. And the fact that he, like, feels like he belongs. Mm-hmm. But Axe goes through with it because we are on a mission. Axe and Rachel confidently walk up to the aircraft where the maintenance crew is saluting them, and they quickly knock them the fuck out and drag them away and jump into the plane. They strap themselves into these special seats. Axe taxis and takes off without any interference, and Rachel's like, dang, that went smoothly. And Axe is like, I fear the rest of the mission won't be so easy. And Rachel's like, pessimist. And Axe shoots back, realist, which was like fucking hilarious. I loved this.
Yes.
The radio then crackles on, and they hear ground control ordering them to land. They're like, you took off without clearance and 5 minutes ahead of schedule. You need to come back here. You're also off of the test route. They ignore it, and then a moment later, whoever is on this radio is like, land now or you will be shot down, whoever you are. And they're like, oh, fuck, they must have found the ground crew and the pilots that we knocked out and shoved into lockers like middle school bullies. Then 2 planes come up on either side of them a few moments later, and Axe says a quick warning to Rachel before easily just shooting off and outstripping these guys. And Rachel was filled with maniacal glee at the whole, like, hitting G1 forces and, like, blah.
My God.
I know. And that's 1G, not G1. Whatever. Very quickly, they make it out to the first coordinates. They outstrip these planes. They're totally out of there. Marco is bitching because he's already pissed off that he couldn't feel the effects of the F-16D plane, and also he can't ride a roller coaster because he's allegedly dead, and he's all pissed.
God, freaking being dead is like giving him all sorts of new joke material, and I love it.
Yeah, I appreciate all of his dead jokes for sure. I also, like, really appreciate his frustrations with suddenly not being able to move around in the world as easily as he could.
Yeah, because, like, it's legit, but also it's just Marco being Marco.
Yeah, and it's also that thing of, like, when you're, however old they are now, between, like, probably 13, 14, 15, somewhere in there, like, you're like, no school, hell yeah, I'll be dead. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, but also no burgers and no video games and no, shit, I didn't think this through.
I wonder how Tobias feels about that. Like, Marco's always over at there scooping, like, man, I can't have all these things. And maybe Tobias is like, well, I haven't been able to have those things in a very long time. Or maybe he's sympathetic. I don't know.
That's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Or just, I'm basing this entirely off of Tobias's whole, like, my eyes are better than yours, blah, blah, blah. Maybe he's like, I remember when I wanted those things, you fool. Like, really superior.
Oh, no.
That would be a really funny and, like, harmless Tobias thing that I feel like he would do. Anyway, so they make it to the coordinates, and they find a giant ship named the USS George Washington, which pisses Marco off, again, that there's a cool ship there, and then he gets, like, very entrenched in this whole conversation they start having about, like, oh, also there are nuclear submarines, and blah, 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 and all the boys start to, like, nerd out together, and after a few minutes of that, Rachel's like, Cassie, do you feel left out? And Cassie's like, yeah, but I'm not disappointed about that.
God.
Shit gets real very quick here because they are spotted by the carrier and they need a plan to get aboard, but also this carrier may fire on them at any moment because it knows that that plane should not be there. And so Jake goes, okay, Axe, get out ahead of the carrier, drop down into the water. And this is, I think, one of the greatest kind of moments here of just getting into Axe's head. Like, this is when it got really real for me.
Yeah.
So, like, the Animorphs all start doing their sniping thing where they're doing the jokes in the background, and Axe, like, starts off with, like, one of Marco's, like, jokey complaints, and it literally trails off mid-sentence, and Axe is like, my friends kept talking, but I was so focused because I had to do these calculations. How am I going to get everybody out of here without killing us all? And while all of them are dicking around in the background, Axe, like, is doing this super intense calculation of how they're going to do this, and he rockets out in front of the carrier, and then he kills the engine, and everybody starts going, whoa, 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 what are you doing? And Axe goes, we can't hit the water at top speed without dying, so I'm working on this crash landing if you could all fucking stop. And Axe is also having this debate, like, well, they also can't find these human bodies in the water. Like, we can't let them know that any of us are human, but also they can't find the pilots that we morphed. So he's doing like calculations on top of this of like, how do I get rid of the bodies if I have to? So while he's doing that, he works it out, gets onto the water, he crashes belly down into the water, and the cockpit immediately shatters apart, and freezing water spills in on him and Rachel. Axe starts demorphing, and it's his Andalite mentality as well as his human mentality that are both panicking because they're trapped in the harness and trapped in this pressure suit, and he's demorphing, trying to tear it apart and just hoping his tail blade comes so he can cut his way out of there. And all thought of his friends is gone. Like, they're on him as fleas, and he's like, I'm morphing, it doesn't fucking matter where they go or what happens to them. And he does manage to morph to the point where his tail blade appears. He cuts his way out of the suit. He is fully Andalite now. He kicks his way to the surface, and only then does he start going like, oh shit, I morphed with my friends on me as fleas. And he starts looking around, and luckily everybody is alive, which he mentions was pure luck. Like, this is fucking amazing that they're all alive, because he did not think they would all live through this. And he sees them floating around in various stages of demorphing or morphing. Most notably with Rachel holding Tobias under one human arm as she starts morphing to Seagull.
Oh.
Just cute.
Also.
Yeah.
The thing that was getting me about the whole, like, he's trying to land the plane and not kill everybody was he started, like, reciting his fucking death, like, thing that the Andalites do.
Yeah, he did. All of the, whatchamacallits, the rituals.
Yeah. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, that's how sure he was that this was not going to work.
Yeah. Oh, God. It's intense.
It's fucking intense. Meanwhile, the rest of the team behind him is like, hurt, derp, derp, derp. Like,
we don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, that was like, I know there's a lot of moments in here where we're like, we gotta remember these are just kids. But that was one of the most poignant moments for me where it was like, they truly don't understand sometimes how much danger they're in. Like, they're so blind to a lot of it because they're idiot kids that think they're gonna live forever and there's no way to kill them. Even though they understand that they may die, they know the risk. There's still that inherent thing that, like, children and teenagers have where you go, like, fall down 30 stairs and, like, pop right back up, like, I'm okay, haha, like...
Yeah.
That was just such an intense moment of that. And then Axe running the actual, like, calculations was...
Yeah, the contrast between their frivolity and his, like, oh my god, I have to save everybody is just very intense.
It was super intense. And I'm glad we were in Axe's head for that moment. Mm-hmm. Yes. So Jake tells them all to get to Seagull before they're spotted. They do. They land on the ship. So listen, this chapter is barely a conversation. It is a description of this ship.
Yeah, it's a Wikipedia article on an aircraft carrier.
It is. And I understand some people like that. So we're going to go through a bulleted list of this next chapter.
Thank fucking
Great. God. Because much like Rachel, I don't give a shit. So here it is. The USS Washington. It's a Nimitz-class ship, which is the biggest ship in the world, made by the Newport News Shipbuilding Company out of Virginia, deployed in 1975.
Wow, this is already, like, way too much.
I Googled this because I needed help. These are the big flat ships with the rotating platforms to shoot jets off of it, everybody. Yep. For anyone who's not into it.
Yep.
Me.
It's got the big, tall control tower thing on top of it. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. And I Googled it, and I was looking at other aircraft carriers because they did, like, a side-by-side comparison. And it's literally like an aircraft carrier. A Nimitz is like aircraft carrier on steroids. It is taller, it is wider, it is longer. It's a fucking floating city is what we're getting at here.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it looked pretty cool. So Google it. It literally just Nimitz class. It pops right up. It is 1,092 feet in length, 252 feet wide. The flight deck area is about 4.5 acres, Jake thinks. It can go 30 plus knots, which is a little over 34.5 miles per hour. 85 to 90 aircraft total on board. This includes an FA-18C Hornet, multiple of those, E-20C Hawkeyes, EA-6B Prowlers, and F-14D Tomcats. A Tomcat is the one that is in the step back of this book. A hornet looks exactly like that tomcat, but with a larger nose. The hawkeyes are ones with stupid discs on top of them that look like the mounting part of the Starship Enterprise was hacked onto an airplane. Never seen one before. No clue what that disc part's for. Didn't bother Googling it past the name. And the prowlers are the ones with the stupid little thingies on their noses for, like, radar and shit.
Wow.
Cool? I Googled this for you, people. For you fucking aircraft nerds.
Oh. More than what I would have done.
Well, we still have more bullet points to go. There are catapults on the ship, which I immediately was like, cool, launch shit. No, that is for the airplanes. Do not make the mistake that I did. That is to catapult airplanes, not large rocks. There's also 4 aircraft elevators. A full complement is between 5,000 and 6,000 crew members. There is not a full complement on board at this time. At this point, Rachel checks back in and asks, what makes it go? And the answer is 2 nuclear reactors, 4 steam engines, propellers, maybe some other shit. Weapons, you ask? Why, that would be a NATO Sea Sparrow missile system with 2 launchers, 8 missiles, and each, I guess, and 4 20mm phalanx CIWS mounts. What's a CIWS, Cassie asked? Glad you asked, Cassie. It's a close-in weapon system. The whole ship apparently provides a forward presence, which is aggressive presence, I guess.
Did any of this matter?
Here's what matters. The fact that you know that there is a Tomcat on board, because those can be outfit with nuclear missiles.
Yes. Okay.
It's important to know that there are Sea Sparrow missile systems with 2 launchers, 8 missiles each. It's important to know that there are the Phalanx CIWS mounts, because those, I believe, are the ones that include the Gatling guns. So know there's a Gatling gun on board, know that there's missiles, know that there's like 90 fucking aircraft.
But like, even if it hadn't been mentioned here, like if it came up later, I wouldn't have been like, oh, you didn't mention there were Gatling guns. Like, I don't know.
You'd be like, yeah, of course there's Gatling guns.
I super could have done without this chapter, unless it had been like a little more visual, instead of just like Jake being like, let me read you a book on aircraft carriers.
So I think this was for 2 reasons. And you're totally right. We could have edited this chapter out and it wouldn't have done much at all to the plot. Like, we know most of these things are here. If you say like, oh, maybe this kind of plane, or I think it looks like this. But I think the point of this chapter was to show us that Jake, think about the first time they were on a ship.
Yeah.
Where Jake had to, like, how many knots is this? How many, blah, blah, blah. Like, I think it's trying to show us, like, how far we've come.
Yeah.
Since the first time we were on a ship, when we didn't really know knots to hours, and we were kind of, like, guessing when we could push dolphins off the side of the ship, to this, where, like, Jake comes into battle. He knows what's going on. He knows what he's seeing. He knows why it's there. He knows what it's for.
Yeah.
And then also, I think it was just to overwhelm you with descriptions so you understand, like, how much shit is going on.
Sure.
So I could have done without, like, reading off this bulleted list, which really I just did for any, like, sea nerds that like planes and shit. Like, I think it was really more just to, like, get us to realize those 2 points, which probably could have been done more effectively, but I'm not complaining because this book is only 118 pages, which is
true.
way short.
That's
so
true.
If this was like 150, I'd be like, well, you could have cut that chapter and, like, save some space, but it's only 118 pages.
Yeah.
And that's 8 pages of notes I have.
Well, I do appreciate that Jake, like, got on board and he's like, oh yeah, I know everything. Like, that was a very good kind of character moment.
I liked it simply for that. And there's probably an easier, less, like, exhausting way to cover this, but I really appreciated that Jake did this. And I also think it may have kind of been the author a little bit being like, look at how much research I did.
Yeah, that's what bothered me, I think. Like, Jake could have done 1 or 2 lines where he pointed out, like, the exact model number of the planes or whatever, and we would have been like, oh, Jake knows his shit. That's cool. But, like, it just kept going, and I'm just like, I don't care, though.
See, I liked it. I thought it was, like, I thought it was funny that it kept going. There's so much.
There's a lot.
There's so much happening. Yeah. But then, like, the only important thing happens in this chapter, which is, like, where after Jake lists his bulleted list of all the shit that's on the ship, Axe goes, and by the way, like, while the Air Force will most likely claim responsibility for that crashed ship, we've just alerted the Yeerks that we're here, and there's going to be an increased awareness on this ship, so everybody be ready. And Marco's like, are you saying that this mission is now more dangerous than ever? And Axe goes, yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Jake and Marco notice there's a bunch of sailors that are standing at attention in dress uniforms, and moments later, a helicopter shows up, which, by the way, did not bother looking to see whether a helicopter could fly this far out, because I didn't care. There's several people that get out of this helicopter, and right before their eyes, in full military uniform, Chapman hops out.
We haven't seen him in a while.
He never. I haven't seen him in 30 fucking books since, like, the first Helmicron's book, I feel like.
God.
Yeah, it's been a while. Jake doesn't hesitate. He says, follow them, and Chapman and the others enter the ship. They take off, trying to find a way to get below decks, and finally somebody spots a vent shaft. One by one, they fly into it in their seagull morphs, and they wind up flapping around hallways below decks. Sailors are chasing them and yelling and freaking out, and the team is flapping wildly in this dead air, trying to get somewhere to hide. They go screaming down hallways, down another, like, shaft that's open. More sailors appear. Rachel poops on one of them, and finally they make it into a massive laundry room where they go shooting past a sailor desperately trying to shove all of the clothes into a washing machine, and it's just not working, and they land in a pile of laundry to demorph. And my MVP is the sailor on laundry duty that sadly cannot fit all the clothes in the washing machine. Axe knocks that poor guy out, and Marco makes him a pillow so he's comfortable. I think they feel guilty.
That's sweet. Oh my god.
It is so sweet. And then Axe goes to his pilot morph. They steal some clothes, of course, and he puts all of the other Animorphs in his pocket. They morph to roaches. Axe now takes the time to mention to us that he has become an expert on dressing like a human, even though he hates it. And then he goes wandering the corridors, trying to blend in. We learn about knee knockers, as Jake calls them, which are some beams that seem to randomly jut up out of the floor. I don't know.
That also doesn't really come into play later, which I expected it to. It's like, why would you mention this if you weren't going to have somebody, like, trip on it later?
Just to build the ambiance. Well, maybe it was so directly after that Axe could mention very proudly that he did not trip one time.
But we all know you're a graceful, wonderful boy.
Not in Human Morph, though. He's a wacky boy in Human Morph.
That's true. He's a wacky boy.
And then Axe also mentions the lack of light, which is something that would be totally unacceptable in an Andalite ship.
I agree.
They cannot see. Yes. Finally, after walking for what seems like miles, Axe hears somebody talking about the hangar bay and how the captain was there, and Axe thought speaks to Jake and is like, how do I get to there? And upon his arrival, because Jake directs him there, he goes to the back of the crowd and listens in inconspicuously until Chapman asks Captain Plummer, Christopher Plummer, to speak to him privately because he brought a gift to alleviate his boredom at sea.
Ew.
Axe really... I know! The way I wrote it was so gross.
Oh, no!
And, like, in the book, they're like, alcohol? I wrote it down and I was like, this sounds like he had brought, like, some sort of weird sex gift.
A big box of porn!
A big box of porn and a fleshlight.
Oh, God. I hate this.
But no, they brought something else that was wet and slimy. A yurt.
Oh, my God! Oh, no!
I literally skipped 4 lines to do that to you.
Oh, my God! I'm so upset. No.
I skipped 4 lines of plot to do that to you, Kaycie.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Oh.
There's a whole other thing. They follow the group back to where they go to speak privately in the captain's quarters, and Axe slips some cockroaches into the captain's pocket. Very clumsily, he has to apologize to the captain for tripping. Cute. Once they're in there, Axe loiters in the hallway. Soon enough, there's a problem. That's when they busted out the Yeerk pool. And I skipped all of that to make a terrible, horrible thing out of my mouth.
Perfect.
So Jake says, get firepower, get the fuck in here. And they just start demorphing in the hallway in full view of anybody who had come here. And there's a few sailors, like, around, and they're just like, go for it. And as they start to go to battle morphs, two sailors come upon them who get, like, all freaked out, and they run off. Once they're morphed, Axe slices through the lock of the door. They run into the room. It's chaos in there. Like, Chapman has told Admiral Carrington to get down, but Carrington is just, like, waving his arms like, you won't ruin the plans of Visa 1. Yeah, he sounds awful. And Admiral Carrington, we find out, is Visor 2. The battle ensues. There's gunshots and slashing and clawing, and then somebody tips over the yerk pool, and, like, the captain plumber got infested, but his two sailors were on the couch passed out, and two more yerks come flooding out of the pool, so they've saved the passed out dudes from their fate. And Jake says to Axe, lead them into the hallway because we need more space. We're going to get slaughtered in here. So Axe moves backwards out of the door, and that's when they realize that there are more sailors on the way with weapons because they want to fight and protect their captain. They have no clue what's going on. And Axe warns Jake that, hey, in this situation, any non-controllers will be destroyed. And Jake is like, get the fuck out of here, bail. So Axe runs out of there with Cassie on his heels. They duck into another room down the hall. They slam the door behind them, and it's like a cartoonish character where everybody just goes running past the door. There is one guy in this room who they quickly stun and tie up. Axe morphs back to the pilot, takes the uniform from this guy, and puts Cassie in his pocket as a cockroach again. Axe remembers Jake saying something about the CIC being on this floor, which I meant to write down but didn't. Something center. Central Intelligence Center? Sure. This is where everything's controlled. Control something like control. It's a center where things are controlled from.
Yay.
Anyways, yay. And Axe is like, that's where we gotta go. So they start walking down the hall where there's armed guards now standing every so often on high alert. And Axe starts hearing the whispers of rumors of what's going on around the ship. And like, oh, so-and-so said there was a tiger. So-and-so said there was a giant blue deer thing. Crazy. And so doing this, they find their way to the CIC, but there's no way to get in without a pass, so they just casually kind of walk past of it. Then a lieutenant walks out, and Axe is like, okay, I have a plan, and he privately warns Cassie, I'm about to ambush someone else, and Cassie simply says, do what you have to do. Cassie. Axe follows the lieutenant until he gets a chance to knock him out, and then he does, and he takes his uniform and acquires this guy and morphs him.
Fucking knock somebody out, take their clothes, rinse and repeat.
Yep, pretty much. Ugh. That is what they do. But it's probably one of the better plans to keep switching who you are and where you are, and, like, you know, you're not bringing heat to any one person.
Yeah.
So it's actually pretty smart, I think, in my limited mindset.
Yeah, and, like, I know the uniforms are supposed to be, like, really important because they grant you different levels of clearance, but, like, God, it must be annoying.
Yeah, and especially, like, you know, Axe mentions, like, oh, I'm an expert on dress now, and it's like, but, like, there are rules about military clothes that I couldn't even begin to comprehend. Like,
yeah, you have to wear things a certain way and stuff like that.
But he seems to do a good job, I guess.
He's a good boy.
And I imagine it's different, too. Like, when you're not in dress clothes and you're just on the ship, it's probably a little more lax, I would guess.
Maybe.
I don't know. Well, I should stop saying things that I know nothing about.
Someone will correct us, don't worry.
Perfect. So Axe heads back to the CIC. They immediately grant him access because he's this other guy now. And he walks in to find Visor 2 and the captain and a radar technician. Matt, the radar technician.
Oh, God, I didn't even remember that. Kylo Ren has an 8-pack. Kylo Ren is shredded.
I saw Kylo Ren in the shower the other time. Oh, man. Sorry, that cracked me up so much. Would you stop yelling at me? Okay, anyways. So yeah, there's the radar technician in there. And the radar technician is very confused as he announces, there are 2 Chinese missiles headed towards the ship.
Oh, God.
3 minutes from impact. And Axe realizes that 3 minutes is the first time that they had recorded with these exact coordinates. And the technician is really disbelieving, and Axe is talking to Cassie, like, who are the Chinese? And she's like, they're a people, they're a nation. And he's like, are we at war with China? Or, like, is the U.S. at war with China? And Cassie's like, we are not. And then 2 blasts rock this carrier, and reports of damage start coming in to the ship. And it's like, oh, there's, this area's been hit, this area's been hit. And the first death toll is 5 people dead at the one blast site. And we're about to hear how many dead at the other blast site. But Cassie interrupts and asks, what the fuck is happening? And Axe tells her the Yeerks just constructed World War III.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So Axe speaks out, tries to find Jake, and Jake is very far away. In fact, he says we are nowhere near CIC, but they're able to hear each other just barely. And he orders Axe to acquire the Admiral and recall the planes. They have to stop World War III. And Axe says this is impossible, and Jake goes, I order you to do it, before cutting out because of the distance. The room was already in chaos, so Axe stepped up to a Marine that was guarding the door, grabs his arm, and fires it into the Admiral's leg. And then he starts wrestling the guy to the ground, saying, he shot at the Admiral! And the room erupts into chaos, and all of these people are, like, jumping at the Marine, knocking him out. There's, like, medics rushing over to the Admiral, and they're saying, like, we have to take you out of here, we have to get this wound looked at. And the Admiral's like, no, I can't leave. And they're like, we have to. So they start taking him away, and as the 2 medics assist him into the hallway, Axe just steps out and follows. And by some dumb luck, nobody questions this. Axe lets Cassie know what's happening, and that when they had the chance, that Axe was going to knock them out, the medics, and, like, take over the Admiral. And he does, as soon as he gets the chance. And Cassie, at this point, takes the time to demorph and run off, and Axe is dragging the Admiral into a closet, screaming about, like, you Andalite, unhand me, blah, blah.
How can he drag a grown man with his weak little arms? Or is he still a man?
Maybe he used his tail. I think he was still a man at this point.
Oh, okay.
As I said, maybe he uses his tail. No, but I think he was still a man at this point.
Gotcha.
Because I think that he starts demorphing in the closet, because then he hits the Admiral with the flat of his tail blade and then acquires him. And
cool.
Yeah. So he acquires him, takes his clothes with the bloody pants and all, and he marches back into the CIC and orders them to recall the planes. Everybody's like, wait, what? What the fuck? Why would we do that? But he issues the command again, and then when Chapman starts saying, what are you doing? He goes, I'll report you to Visor 1 as a traitor. And Chapman just goes super pale and shuts the fuck up.
Yay. Shut up, Chapman.
Yeah. Shut your fucking mouth, Chapman. Oh, man. Okay, so the captain and Chapman were surprised with good reason as they made it to the Admiral's quarters, and that's because in there they found the real Admiral in his underwear with a zoo of animals.
Cute.
Axe forces them into the room. I know, it's pretty cute. Well, not the Admiral in his underwear, that's gross, but the animals are cute.
Yeah.
And I like Tobias sitting menacingly on a high shelf. Axe forces them into the room, and they shut the door, and Rachel blocks it with her grizzly bear morph.
Yay.
And she's so badass,
I love
okay?
her.
Rachel in this book is fucking amazing.
Yes.
Axe started to question the real Admiral, who at first wouldn't answer, and, like, very ridiculously puffed his chest out, even though he was mostly naked. But, like, it was so funny. But he finally gives up the master plan. They did stop the Chinese sub from being nuked by the planes, which China would have seen as an unprovoked attack, but it didn't matter because the US ship was attacked, and in 2 hours, detailed reports of this attack were going to land on several important figures' desks, and at that point, the World War would still be declared. About this time, somebody starts frantically pounding on the door of the quarters, saying several ships have been visually identified, but they are not coming up on the radar. And then the Admiral starts, like, laughing. And this whole time, all of the Animorphs are, like, privately buzzing back and forth to each other about how this Admiral is just nuts, because the guy's like, ha ha ha, you can't fool me. And, like, he's in his underwear, strutting around a room saying, like, it doesn't matter what you do, we still are gonna win because our plan can't be stopped. Blah, ha, ha. Yep. I won't tell you the coordinates of the submarine. Ah, like, the guy's nuts.
Yeah.
So, the guy's pounding on the door saying there's several ships visually identified. They weren't coming up on the radar. And this is when the Admiral's like, there are several bug fighters on their way here. And then laughed at them saying, do you think you can fight your way out of this one? Ha ha ha. And then the ship was rocked by explosions. The bug fighters were firing on them. Another explosion hit the ship right above them. Axe fell to his knees and puts his arm over his head to protect himself from whatever falling metal he could. And this room has just like filled with smoke and crumbling rock. And as it starts to clear, they realize the Admiral has gone missing. So the kids run out into the hallway and start scrambling up to the deck to try and find him. And they realize they have to get to the heart of this battle as well. And Jake and Cassie ran up first with Tobias hovering over top of them. Rachel is like looking at the door like, fuck, I'm not going to be able to get through. But somebody saw Jake and Cassie come out of there and they shot at the staircase. So suddenly the top of it's blown wide open and Rachel's able to just bound up onto the deck. And before Axe's eyes is the most intense battle they had yet seen. There are people firing on one another. There are people firing on planes. There are hork-bajir jumping out of these bug fighters onto the deck. Things are on fire. The Gatling gun is firing. There is smoke everywhere. And they all split up. Marco's like, I'm going to go try to get the anti-aircraft guns to try and stop them from firing on the planes that Axe had ordered to turn back around and land. So Axe is feeling pretty not good about that. Axe heads off because he's going to find the Admiral. Rachel had already gone because she's going to go fight the hork-bajir and try to take them out. And the others are all engaged in these various battles. And Axe is kind of moving around the deck trying to figure out where the Admiral had gone, where to go, when a controller comes at him and spits out Andalite. And he just reacts because the guy is jumping out at him. And all it says here is, there was one less controller.
Oh.
Yeah, I think this is our first, very clear, he's dead.
Yeah.
Above him, the planes that he had ordered back were starting to come into view, and they're getting shot at and destroyed, and the wreckages of them are dropping into the ocean, just these twisted piles of metal. And that's when Axe realized Marco had not made it in time. Another controller tries to sneak up on Axe. Axe just slices his hand off and sends him tumbling back down these near vertical staircases. Axe takes another look around as Marco is running back towards him, and he notices that all of a sudden there's these humans that are fighting back with them on their side. There's men fighting with Rachel, who's fighting these hork-bajir, because they realize that hey, we're on the same side. Aww. This guy comes running past Marco and Axe, and he throws them this quick salute, and then goes and joins the fight. And Marco goes, "Did you see that?" And Axe goes, well, perhaps aliens attacking made the Earth animals seem not so confusing. And Marco goes, yeah, maybe Rachel told them what she really looked like and promised them all dates.
Marco!
At this point, Cassie is thought speaking to everybody. She cries out that this is horrible. They have no clear idea of what to do. This is just carnage. And that's when Axe goes, I'm going after the Admiral. That's the key. Marco went to go help Rachel and her new squadron fight the hork-bajir, and Axe spots Chapman, and at that moment, he forms a plan. Oh boy.
Dude, this whole fucking chapter's so cinematic, fucking...
Oh my god.
If this were a movie, Axe would come out from below deck, and there would just be, this, slow motion pan around shot of just, everything fucking happening. It's so intense.
That's exactly what I pictured. Oh. That and the smoke billowing across the deck, so you see these different highlights of little vignettes of fighting over here, fighting over there.
Yeah.
You notice a plane swoops in and you see the and then hits the plane, crashes into the ground.
Oh.
Yeah.
Fuck.
This whole scene is super cinematic, and then the guy jumping out of the smoke behind him, and he just tail blades him right across the middle.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh. And then that moment of such elation when it's they're on our side.
Mm-hmm.
Finally someone's on our side.
Ugh.
That's such a huge moment. That could have happened to any one of the Animorphs who were human.
Yeah.
But it happened to Axe first.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's so good.
It's no good, but it's so good.
Yeah, I know, it's awful, but it's good.
Oh my
it
god.
It just reinforces his whole, thing thing with the Andalites versus the humans and not really belonging in either world, but like also kind of feeling accepted by the humans, and now the humans are helping him, and yeah, it's just ugh.
And the Andalites
Are
not
not,
helping
yeah.
him.
Oh, fuck me. Axe, I'll adopt you.
Yeah, me too. You're my best friend.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah. This scene is so intense.
Yeah.
And yet not as intense as the next 2 chapters.
Yeah.
Axe follows Chapman, who's limping away from him. Chapman goes below decks, and Axe needs to follow him, but he knows his own body is not good for going up and down stairs and stuff. So he turns to one of the sailors nearby, and he goes, "Can I borrow some genetic material?" And the guy was like, "Dude, for sure, borrow away," and like holds his hand out.
Whoa.
So Axe acquires him, and then the guy gives Axe his gun too, like, "Good luck."
Oh, I love this guy.
I fucking love this guy. And I'm not like pontificating saying like, "Dude, for sure, borrow away." That is like a fucking quote.
Yeah.
Like, I'm barely paraphrasing at this
Yeah.
point. That's what the guy says.
Oh.
So Axe goes running below decks, and he's running past these injured sailors trying to get cover, and past people that are running past him to get above decks, and he finds Chapman, who's sitting alone in an empty room drinking coffee.
Piece
and
of
when
shit.
Axe steps in, he's such a piece of fucking shit. Once Axe steps into the room, Chapman whirls around, and Axe shuts the door and orders Chapman to tell him where the Admiral was. And Chapman, like, is desperate and, like, goes, "Ah!" and tries to throw his hot coffee at Axe. But Axe just draws the gun and points it at Chapman. And he's like, "I will shoot you if you do not take me to the Admiral." Axe then enters this totally internal struggle where he goes, "Of course I had no intention of shooting Chapman, but Chapman's the worst kind of Yeerk. He's an arrogant, power-hungry Yeerk who would do anything to get what he wants, and he's one of Visser One's biggest supporters." And so Axe kind of subconsciously cocks the gun because he's not trying to ramp it up just yet, but his temptation is growing to just shoot him and to get rid of him, and he's so angry at him and he hates him so much. He's like, I could kill this guy, and I could just do it, like, right now.
Oh, I hate it.
And Chapman, like, actually gets scared. And at this point, somebody opens the door, hits Axe from behind, which sends him sprawling. Axe loses grip of the gun, Chapman scoops it up, and by the time Axe turns around, Chapman's pointing the gun at him and saying, "Oh, I should take you as my own personal prisoner," and then Chapman shoots the gun at Axe.
I mean, Axe could have shot him in the foot if he needed to persuade him, but not kill him.
Yeah, but he was gonna shoot him right in the heart.
Right in the heart, because fuck that guy.
Fuck Chapman.
Heads up, I have been gifted a sandwich.
This is not the moment in this book to eat a sandwich,
okay,
Kaycie.
okay. Yeah.
So, Axe was suddenly running across his homeworld. He saw his family, and specifically Elfangor, and that's when he jolted up. He was not in his homeworld. He was on the cold, hard floor, and he bolted upright. He felt ashamed that he had passed out because it was not a shot that had hurt him in any way. It had just incapacitated him. Axe quickly went back to his own form and sliced his way out of the room. Someone tried to sneak up behind him, but he was being extremely cautious at this point, and he removed the guy's hand and continued on his way. Axe went along this eerily silent hallway past the CIC where there was now no one, and further down, and he came to a room where Captain Plummer was on the ground, his stomach completely blown apart, and it was clear that he would not live to the end of this battle. Axe went into the room and ducked back as a hork-bajir and human passed by, and Plummer called out to them and said, "Take me further below deck, I'm one of you." And the human controller sneered at him and said, "You're nobody. Your host body is done for, and you should try to save yourself." Once they had passed, Axe approached Captain Plummer and saw that the Yeerk was now crawling out of the captain's ear. The captain, now in control, starts going, "What have I done? I tried to fight it. I tried."
Oh.
And Axe awkwardly comforts him, saying, "No one will blame you." The captain reached out for Axe's hand, and Axe grabbed his hand back and held on to him and stayed with him to the end.
Fuck. Damn. Hell.
Yeah. That was, like, the most intense moment for me. That, like, Axe would leave them and stay with this guy until he died.
Yeah. And the guy being like, I tried to fight it, what have I done? And, oh my god, it's just... This is all very bad.
This is extremely bad. And as always,
it gets worse.
So Axe heads back above deck. And when he gets there, he is witnessing an insane amount of carnage. Things have escalated since he left. There are Draken cannons being trained on the deck and explosions everywhere. He's watching as things are just blowing up one after the other. And the humans are retaliating with bombs and shooting back at the bug fighters. And it was chaos. Someone starts calling his name, and then an unknown person skids up to him, and he raises his tail. And the guy goes, hey, it's me, it's Tobias. I tried to ask a guy if I could acquire his body, and he passed out, so I assumed he meant yes, and I shoved him in a closet, but anyways, I'm a catapult technician. And Axe kind of, relaxes his tail and goes, okay, that's probably a good morph to have. So, Tobias was also looking for the Admiral, and he tells, this whole stash him in a closet type story when they hear a strange noise starting up. And he and Axe both look over, and Tobias explains, those are the boats. Some sailors are launching lifeboats to try and escape. And he starts mentioning, I think if they get to another ship, they'll be okay. But as they're looking out onto the ocean, they see one of these lifeboats filled with about 20 or 30 people, totally defenseless, get fired upon by a Draken cannon. And in a flash, they watch all of those people die.
Oh my god.
And then they hear a noise behind them, so they turn around, and they see Marco half carrying the soldier that had saluted them earlier as the guy is dying. And Axe thinks, I have to stop this. I just have to stop this.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, he does. Cassie calls out to Axe, and he sees her limping towards him with Rachel and Jake in tow, and they're exhausted and injured. And they limp up, and Marco tells them, the Admiral's only a few yards away, and Tobias goes, well, what's the point? He's not giving us any information. What are we going to do even if we get the guy? And Axe goes to Jake and says, can we talk privately? So he and Jake have an aside, and Axe goes, I have something terrible to propose. And Jake goes, okay, go on. And Axe explains that he thinks that the Admiral would only react to the mass annihilation of his own people. They need to target the Yerk pool. And Jake goes, Axe, we can't do that. You can't ask me to order that. And Axe argues, it's millions of people versus only thousands. You have to see that this is the right choice. Axe is like, I have to make him see this. And Jake is horrified. He goes, Axe, we cannot possibly do that. There is no way. And when Axe hears the horror and disgust in Jake's voice, he realizes that he's made a terrible mistake. And he apologizes. He goes, I'm so sorry. And then he knocks Jake out with the flat of his tail blade. And he goes, I'm so very sorry.
Oh my god. I felt sick at this point. I was like, oh my god. Shit, my dude.
There's this is so intense.
Yeah.
Anyways. Axe then calls out to Cassie and says, Jake was hurt. He's unconscious. And she leaves her post to go over to him. And Axe is sick with himself because Cassie trusts him implicitly. Doesn't question it. And Axe takes off towards the planes. He sees in front of him Visor 2 nearing the wreckage of a plane and crouching down. And then there's nearby some other men who are on their side that remain holed up and firing on the hork-bajir when they could. And one of them pops up to fire and gets hit. And Axe calls out to Marco, Rachel, and Tobias, and he asks for their help. He goes, I need to get the Visor. We need 2 pressure suits, and we need to get onto one of the planes that remains unharmed. And he points out the one in the first catapult. And I have to have Visor 2 with me in the plane. The 3 of them hesitate, but Marco goes, where's Jake? And Axe goes, Jake is out of commission, and we need to act.
Oh, God.
And Rachel and Tobias are like, okay, let's do this. And Marco is like, whoa. What have either of you stopped to ask what he's going to do once Axe is in that plane? And then he points out that he had seen earlier that they had strapped a nuke to it and that the Andalites had a tendency to destroy what they said they were trying to preserve. And at this moment, Rachel is stunned. And Axe mentions it's the only time he'd ever seen Rachel completely stunned into silence like that. And Tobias realizes that Axe is not acting under Jake's command, but he stays neutral. And Axe goes, I trusted him to do what he felt was right. So then Axe has to make this plea to Marco. And he goes, I've not always trusted you, but every time you've proved me wrong. And he asks for Marco to trust him. And Marco just laughs and he goes, I trust you to be ruthless, but is this to save human lives or to pump up the Andalite glory? And Axe felt it stung. He hated that comment, but he goes, I am begging you, like, try to understand this has to be done. And he asks again, will they help for their people? And Marco just goes, I don't really see that we have a choice. Rachel and Axe fight their way to the jet together, tossing aside hork-bajir and controllers who tried to stop them. Marco follows a moment later with Visor 2 in tow and a new gash across his gorilla chest saying, sorry I'm late, but Visor 2's friends didn't want him to come play with us. Tobias is in position to launch the catapult. Rachel and Marco stuff the Visor into a pressure suit and a helmet, and then Axe ties him up with his human fingers. They stuff him into the radio technician's seat behind the pilot's seat. There's no controls back there. This is a Tomcat. I don't know if that's accurate, but that's what they mentioned. And once he's secured, Axe gets into place and familiarizes himself with the simple controls. Marco worked as the guide to get the plane into position on the catapult, and then gives him the thumbs up with something like doubt in his eyes. Rachel then gives him a laugh and says, don't do anything I wouldn't do. But even so, Axe could hear this fear in her voice. Aww. Axe was ready to launch when he was aware of Jake running up to the plane screaming, Axe, stop. But Tobias says, when you're ready. Axe launches it. The catapult smashes him back in his seat and just full G-forces pulling at his skin, pulling his mouth open. They launch him off the end of the runway, and once he hit flying speed, it kind of calms down and he realizes that he was on his own, totally alone.
I hate it!
It's bad. Axe flew towards the Yerk pool, and nobody followed them. Axe is calmly and coolly telling Visor 2 that if he didn't order the submarine to self-destruct, they would be dropping off this nuclear bomb, which was set to explode on impact at the Yerk pool. Visor 2 raged and said, you would never, I don't believe it. There's no way this will happen. And Axe just kept flying. And as they approached, every second they got closer, Axe's heart started hammering harder in his chest, and there was sweat dripping down his arms. And he just kept approaching as Visor 2 is going, there's no way you're going to do this. No, you wouldn't do this. And he just kept going, and he kept telling himself that 10 to 20,000 lives to save millions. It's worth it. They have to see that this is worth it. They continue on their way until finally, as they were almost there, Visor 2 said, okay, I will give the command to the submarine to self-destruct, but you have to let me go. And Axe immediately eases off the controls and tells Visor 2 that the radio channel was now open for him. Axe listened as Visor 2 very angrily made the call and told the submarine to self-destruct. And then Axe turned around, and as he flew over the woods that he had called home, he was relieved and horrified and worried. He had done something terrible that may have damaged his relationship with his fellow warriors and his prince. And he had, as Cassie would say, played God. And who was he to play God? They returned mostly in silence until Visor 2 asked Axe if he would really have done it. Would he have nuked the Yerk pool? Axe did not answer. He felt he had enough to answer for. And that's the end of this book.
No.
Yeah.
Shit. So, the thing that hit me the hardest was... Oh, God. What book was it? I think it was the one where they were protecting Jake's dad. And they kidnapped Chapman, and Axe had to, like, interrogate him.
Yeah.
And then he had that conversation with Jake, being like, this is too far. Like, I hate this. I'm never doing this again. Do not ask me to ever do something like this again. And then you have this? Just, oh my God.
Yep. That line moves just a little bit further every day.
And then, okay, so, like... the moment where he's flying towards their home, basically, and he's like, I may do this, like, I may have to end up doing this, and he was like, my heart was breaking. That's when I started, like, the tears started welling up in my eyes. I'm like, oh no.
Oh man. See, for me, the part that hit me that I thought maybe it was when he was getting ready to launch and Jake is running towards him going, Axe, stop, Axe, no. And then he launches. Yeah.
Because, like, again, you know, everyone says, like, oh, we don't have time to fuck around anymore. We do whatever it takes. And I guess that includes completely defying your prince.
Yeah, but can it? Like, because how long did it take them to trust Axe? And now Axe has done this. And, like, how far back has he moved?
Yeah, like he said, he probably just ruined all trust.
Probably.
In his friends. Like,
at least with Jake.
Yeah. And he's willing to have that to save most of humanity.
And how complicit are Rachel, Marco, and Tobias in this?
Yeah.
I mean, Tobias he didn't freak out like Marco did. He wasn't shocked like Rachel was. He realized the situation and immediately made the call. Like, if we're gonna assign levels of blame, which is inappropriate and we shouldn't, but let's do it. Tobias saw Jake running as well, saw that go down, and still said, you're ready to launch.
And, like, how much of that was because, like, Axe is, you know, basically your best friend, and how much of that is, like, this means destroying your home, but, you know, you don't have as much as the others do. Like, you don't have a family, and not to, like, be terrible, but, you know, that's just...
No, and it's decision too, that, like, the source is really weird. Like, if it was Rachel, it'd be like, yeah, because it's your friend, and she'll do whatever for her friends, no matter what. It's because it's her friend, but it's Tobias who is not as much as Cassie, but he's probably the second most moral character we have. Mm-hmm. So, like, what did he see that, like, Jake couldn't kind of rectify?
I mean, and did he trust that Axe wouldn't go through with it, or did he trust that the outcome was going to be all right? Like,
that's super interesting. Like, did Tobias always in his head say there's no way that Axe will go through with this, and Jake saw something that said, yeah, Axe would go through with this, and that's what caused the disparity? And so each one of them was just saying, how much does Axe value human life? And depending on what they saw in him, that's what informed the reactions.
Yeah. Because, you know, Tobias knows Axe a lot better than Jake does. Mm-hmm. And, you know, maybe Tobias has some... Like, the whole book is Axe having, you know, inner crisis about, like, humanity. And maybe Tobias is, like, aware of some of that. Like, he's aware of how much, like, Axe actually, like, wants to help the humans.
Yeah.
But Jake is still holding him, you know, kind of in the same regard as Marco. It's like, you're not human, you're an Andalite, and you're willing to make these risks. Like,
yeah, but, like,
I don't know.
Flip that a little bit, and it's Jake saying, no, I know that you're very analytical and that you've done the math on this, and so I know that you're capable of this. And Tobias being more like, that's my friend, I trust that he wouldn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
Like, so it's Oh man, that's intense.
Yeah, and I wonder how everything is going to change moving forward. Like, I wonder how they're going to treat Axe from now on. Like, especially, like, Cassie. You know, like, I'm assuming she would be solidly against that idea, but also, like, maybe she would understand why Axe did it. I don't know. Like, I'm just so interested.
After the Tobias book where they were going to blow up a few thousand, I don't think there's any way she would be on board with any part of this plan.
No. But I'm saying, like, because Axe did it and everything was fine and he wanted to save humanity, like, would she respect some of that? Like, I want to see how she treats him moving forward.
Yeah. Or would she, like Tobias, never believe that he would go through with it?
Right.
Oh, man. Yeah, that was a fucking intense book.
That was like, that felt like one of the highest stakes, if not the highest stake book yet.
Yeah.
I mean, it was fucking World War III, so, I mean, yeah, obviously the highest stakes.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Oh, man. Like, I don't even know like, I don't know how to express any of this more intensely than how it was in the book. Like, it was just so much.
It was amazingly well done. Like, wow.
Mm-hmm. And do you think Axe would have nuked the Yerk pool?
I don't know. I don't want to think about it. My son. What do you think?
I think he would have.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards that myself.
Yeah, I think he did the math.
Yeah, and he was prepared to answer for it.
Yeah, and he was, in a way, like, when you see the whole betrayal of Jake from Axe's perspective, you know exactly where he's coming from. And at the other end of that spectrum of knowing where he's coming from, it reads more of once Jake decided that he couldn't give the order, Axe took it upon himself to do it and make sure that Jake could come away with his clean conscience. And that's really what it was about, was making sure that Jake's mindset was preserved and he was able to move forward and not be, like, just destroyed by this guilt. And Axe was going to take that on for his prince. So in a way, he was still acting for his prince. And so I think he absolutely would have done it, because he would have thought, like, no matter what happens to me, I saved my prince from having to do this, and I stopped this situation from escalating.
God, I really wonder how Jake's going to treat him moving forward. Like, I feel like part of Jake's going to want to just, like, kick him out.
Well, the next book is a Jake book, so we'll know pretty quick.
Perfect! Oh, no. Yeah, God. Like, if I were Jake, I'd want to, like, kick him out, but also not quite be able to, because, like, he's still very useful.
I mean, he's useful, but, like, how can you order him to do anything now? Knowing that he'll knock you out if he doesn't agree with you?
Infighting that's the thing now.
Yeah. And not only that, but, like, Cassie was the only one that did not have to take a stance during that argument. She was effectively removed from it. So, like, what's her perspective on everybody now? Because obviously she's going to be, like, on Jake's side, but Marco, Tobias, and Rachel, what the fuck? They basically threw their lot in with Axe to say, like, we believe in this nuke plan. Like, it could cause a bunch of issues, a bunch of divides.
Yeah. Oh, I hate it. I don't want my kids to fight.
What will Eric the Chi think?
Oh, no. Well,
no one gives a fuck. Anyways.
Just kidding. I don't give a fuck.
Let's rate characters. What did you think about Jake?
I mean, he was, like, primo leader in this book, and I liked him bringing his military knowledge, because every time he does it, I'm like, oh, you do kind of, like, contribute something to the team apart from being a leader, and I respect that.
So how many stars, though?
5.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree with everything you just said. He was great. And I, for the probably first time in this entire series, had a moment where, like, oh, I see, like, a part of myself in Jake. And that was when he knew everything about the aircraft carrier, but kept saying, like, oh, maybe, or, like, I'm not really sure. And it's like, no, I know all of the facts. I just don't feel confident enough to assert them dominantly in case I'm, like, off a hair. So I was like, yes, this is me. I always am like, well, I think it's this, even if I know it is, like, for a fact. So
yeah,
I loved that. No, but yeah, five stars. He was a fantastic leader, and I so loved, like, I feel like in so many instances, Jake has to think about balancing what's right and, like, what he has to do and, like, considering everybody's perspective. And yet when Axe came to him with this plan where he just straight shut it down, said, absolutely not, I cannot order anybody to do that. That is too far. And I loved seeing, like, that gut reaction from Jake, and that he's still not, like, just a mystic leader. He's, like, still a person. And I loved that view. So yeah. 5. Rachel.
Continues to be fucking amazing.
So good.
God, I get so mad because she's fucking amazing in every book, and the only books I don't really like are in her own books, and I feel awful about that.
Yup.
But yes, 5, because she was fucking badass. I loved her teamwork with Axe and being a big old bear that can't fit through doors.
Yeah. I'm obviously gonna give her a 5, but I just want to kind of like backtrack throughout the whole books and say one of the character interactions that I didn't include was her and Marco the entire book going at each other, like Marco trying to like make comments at her, and like there's one moment that made me laugh so hard when they were both Seagull and like Rachel's like, who gives a shit about your facts? And like then Axe goes, well, actually, like having more information would be helpful in this situation. And Marco chases her down as a seagull, like, you were wrong.
Yeah, it's like he strutted toward her and she strutted away.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I can just picture that. It's so funny.
Me too. And like then Axe saying like, oh, if Marco had eyebrows, he would be raising his eyebrows at her right now.
Yeah. Oh my god.
I loved that. There was one line that really got me too, where Rachel said something disparaging to Marco, and Marco just goes, oh, I can't win with this girl. I don't understand how you can do this, Tobias. You must be a saint. And Jake just goes, knock it off, you two.
Dad is fed up with you.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like the whole book, the two of them are just fucking on point, and I loved it.
We needed those moments to lift from the absolute despair and destruction happening around us.
We did. We so did.
little breaths of fresh air there.
Yeah, they were fantastic.
Thank God for them.
Thank God for them. So, Tobias.
I don't know. Because, I mean, like, kind of the big players in this book were, like, Axe, Jake, and Rachel, and Marco to some extent. So, Tobias was a little pushed aside, I think. I mean, I always love his friendship with Axe, like that. And I like the thing we came up with, the theory we came up with, that he had trust in Axe not to nuke their fucking city. So that made me love him even more. But I don't know if that's true or canon. So
that's true. We just made that up in our own head. He's a difficult one, this book.
Yeah.
And especially because the whole decision making where like every single person was like horrified at Axe that knew what was going on other than Tobias. It says something, but I don't know what. Yeah.
Although I liked when he asked Axe if Axe had made sure to make sure the program wasn't going to let the Yerks trace back to them, and Axe was just like, oh please.
Yeah. Come on. Are you serious right now?
Don't at me, bro.
Yeah. And I like the best part about those interactions was how much you can just see Axe picking up on like Earth gestures and Earth sayings and like, oh, it was so good. Like just the whole like like his version of the slow head turn, like, what? And then Tobias being like, sorry, just asking.
He like fruffed his feathers a little bit, like, oh, sorry.
Yeah, my bad.
So cute.
Yeah. But this doesn't leave us, like, what do we give him? Like, we loved him, but what do we do with him?
I don't know. 5. It's our podcast. I don't give a shit.
Yeah. I'll give him a 5, too, because I love him. And that's my decision. Okay. What about Cassie?
I felt kind of bad for Cassie through the whole book because I felt like she was the only one who kept being like, but guys, remember, let's not be monsters. And everyone was just kind of like getting annoyed with her, ignoring her. Because at one point, like, she and Axe are in the ship together, and Axe like does something to somebody, like knocks him out or something, and she was like, is he okay? And he was like, yes, Cassie, he's okay.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, Cassie's just trying to be that person, that wholesome person who doesn't want to cross any lines, and everyone else is just like, oh, we are so beyond this right now.
Yeah, I mean, shit, she's like the hardest one to pin down too, because she was the one that I felt like she wasn't always herself. Like, it felt like the author was like, oh, yeah, it is important to have those, like, moral questions, but I want to get back to the action. So, like, just hurry through this part.
Yeah, like they didn't get the proper weight that they deserved, maybe.
Yeah, and I don't want to say that this book should have been bogged down by that. Like, I don't think we needed every chapter to have that counterbalance, but I think we needed more of it.
Yeah.
And my heart broke for her when she totally trusted Axe when he knocked out Jake and then goes, Cassie, he's hurt. And she just rushes over like, oh my God. Oh, I felt so bad for her.
I know. Oh, I don't like it.
Me either.
I want to die. I love them all, but I want to. Yeah. Okay, I'll stop crying.
No, don't.
I'll give Cassie a 5.
I'm gonna give her a 4.
Okay.
Not because I don't love her, but because I wanted more from her, which wasn't her fault. But I don't know. I'm just doing it. I'm just doing it.
She's kind of like Tobias. Like she wasn't a star player in this book, which is fine. But like, you know, God, I feel like we're coming up on the moment though, and I keep waiting for it to happen. I keep waiting for that shoe to drop, and it hasn't dropped yet, Alex. And you haven't talked about it in a really long time, and I'm like, we're running out of books here.
Yeah, I'll say nothing.
Okay.
Much like when you ask Paul Hollywood how to make this part of the cake, and he just looks at you with that look. That's what I'm doing to you right now.
Blue eyes. His big blue
That's what
eyes.
I'm doing. I'm just staring at you with my intense blue eyes and that slight smile on my face.
I don't like it. I mean, Axe has gone through a major betrayal character moment. I can only imagine Cassie's is coming up too. Everyone's gonna make a big thing. Everyone's gonna have a big pivot.
Let's have an Animorphs moment here. Would you like a very vague spoiler, or would you like nothing?
I would like nothing, actually.
Okay.
Because I'm so curious and I want to know, but oh, God.
Okay.
I'm assuming it's... Never mind.
I'm
not going to say anything either.
It doesn't matter what you assume. I'm not saying shit.
KKK. KKK.
Yeah. So what do we think about Marco?
I loved him, even though he said one or two bad things.
He did say one or two very bad things, Marco.
Yeah.
We thought we had cured you of this, and then you did it again.
Yeah.
Marco. We talked about this, Marco.
You had your whole last book and you didn't say a single bad thing.
And we were so proud of you. We had so much fun recording that book. And then you did bad things again.
But, you know, I don't know. Didn't offend me as much as normal. I think there was just a lot going on.
Yeah, and they were very mild.
Yeah.
So.
And he still was very much Marco, I think, through the whole book.
Oh,
and...
Yeah. Definitely, yeah.
God, the end was so interesting, though, when he figured out, like, immediately that Axe was acting not under Jake's orders, and he kind of, like, definitely called him out on it. Mm-hmm. But then he still went along with it.
Well, okay, so here's the other thing. He went along with it, but, like, he still was shit-talking the Andalites the whole time, and we have not heard Marco say some of this rhetoric since he and Axe had trust problems fucking a million books ago. Like, we have not heard Marco express this, and all of a sudden it's like, and it didn't feel out of place. Like, it didn't feel like, oh, they're trying to drag this back up. It's like, oh, this has been simmering under Marco's consciousness this whole time, and finally Marco's like, I fucking knew you were gonna do this again. Like, I fucking knew it, and now you're doing it. And then, like, the analytical part of his brain is still like, we have no other choice, and I fucking hate it, and I think you're wrong.
Yeah.
Like, that whole conflict in Marco was fucking amazing.
Yeah. Although, let's talk a little bit about the whole like comment about Andalite glory
Yeah.
and shit. Because I'm like, that felt a little bit out of nowhere for me. But that's because we were in Axe's head this whole time, and he was, you know, he kept making comments about humans, and not necessarily disparaging comments either.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was saying like how much he's like starting to identify with them, and kind of alluding to the fact that he might have to live with them after all of this is over. But so the fact that like Marco was like, "Oh, you're just doing this for the glory," I was kind of like, but no, though. I don't know.
So I'm torn on that, because that would be like, I could see it kind of coming out of left field and him saying it and us being like, oh, that's not great. Like, why did he say that? Or was Marco testing him yet again and trying to push him into something? Or like I feel like it's within Marco's purview to like play those sorts of games by saying these things that are so like out of left field, just to see how Axe reacts to it so that Marco can better gauge his intentions.
Okay. That's true.
I'm torn. Like, because I don't know if it's that, like, I don't know if the author went that deep, or if they're just like, oh, they did mention this many books ago, maybe we should bring it back. Like,
yeah.
I'm torn.
I'm torn. Anyway.
No matter what the author's intentions, that scene between Axe and Marco, and having Axe basically pleading with Marco, like,
yeah.
You have always proven to me that you are trustworthy. I'm begging you to trust me in this moment. Like, that was so intense.
No, I'll save it for Axe.
We can talk about Axe now if you want. Well, I think we have to give ratings. Sorry. We have to give stars, so we can move.
I'll just give Marco 5, because I love all the babies.
Okay. I'll give... I can't be the only... Cassie's the only 4.
Why not?
Because, like, she and Marco had the same amount of, like, problematic stuff. Like, I want to either give Marco a 4 or bring Cassie up to a 5.
You can do whatever you want. Or you could give them both 4.5s.
That's a good... Okay, both 4.5s.
Okay.
Okay. Axe.
Okay, so what I love most about Axe in this book is that he's always been very intelligent before, and I love just getting his emotional side. Mm-hmm. And there was so much of it in this book, like the fact that he was just looking at this carnage around him, and the fact that he threw back to Megamorphs, where that's kind of like the only other time he's seen carnage on that level.
Yeah. And
has been like, holy shit, humans suck. Oh my god, why are they doing this to each other? Mm-hmm. And I loved kind of revisiting that part of him and saying that, like, I might kill several thousand people and I feel really bad about it. I don't know.
No, I think I totally get what you're saying here. And I think a big part of that was, like, before he made that big decision of, like, we have to, like, kidnap Visitor 2 and do the nuke plan, he was just kind of, like, stumbling around the deck, like, in, again, cinematic, like, when you see soldiers who are very disoriented in the midst of a battle. But, like, he was just looking around at everything, and he just kept saying, like, my heart's hurt. My hearts were bruised with the cries of the people that were dying. Like, it was just such an unacceptable level of carnage. And especially for these people who didn't know about their fight, didn't know that they were the guerrilla warriors, didn't know they were under attack from aliens. And yet the minute they saw, like, these guys are on our side, they're your allies. And suddenly you have all these people fighting with you. And you're already struggling with feeling like maybe you fit in here too well. And then you just get sucked into that. And, like, oh.
Yeah.
It was so good. And then, like, the desperation when he was pleading with Marco, that was another big emotional moment for him, where he is, like, literally, like, I am bearing myself to you. Because he never says those things so bluntly, right? He's always super analytical. So it was huge.
Yeah, like, the fact that he was pleading with Marco, a human, for humanity, that was just, like, really, really poignant. I don't know.
Yeah.
Especially because, like, what would Marco do in that situation? Like, if this was up to Marco, like, what would Marco do, you know? he'd probably do the same thing. He'd probably say, like, sacrifice a few to save many, because that's how the math works.
Yeah, and I think that's what got to him in the end, because, like, that's what he said. Like, we do not have the choice. Like, he was still bitter about it and still resentful. He still didn't want to do it, but he goes, we have no choice, because he came to the same conclusion that Axe did.
Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah. Oh, my God. And, like, Marco, it's going to sound mean, but, like, he almost thrives on that, like, you fight back. He pushes you because he expects you to fight back. So when he pushes you and you give and you say, no, like, this is what it is, I like, he's really uncomfortable with that. And I think that's why he and Cassie have such a weird relationship. Yeah. So, like...
And why he and Rachel get along so well.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, when Axe, like, who would normally not necessarily push back, but at least, like, stand his ground, gave way and said, please, like, trust me. That must have been such a huge moment for Marco, too.
Yeah.
I loved the way you said that, too. Like, he had to beg Marco for humanity. Beg a human for humanity. That's great.
I also thought a really sweet moment was in the very beginning when Jake is talking to the Andalite and saying, like, this is the Earth resistance, and Axe was proud of him.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Oh, that was, like... Oh, that was so amazing.
And it hurts all that much more knowing what happened in the end of this book.
Yeah, and especially because, like, he asked for Jake's permission to talk to his people. So it's almost like we swung from, like, you are listening to, like, you're so invested in Jake. And then because he was so invested in Jake, that was his own downfall when he swung to the other side of betrayal.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you'll do anything for Jake. Literally anything. Oh, fuck. Oh my God.
And now Jake probably hates you. There was another moment where, like, early in the beginning when he was describing himself, like, and he says, I'm an Andalite cadet. Although I've seen enough shit, I could probably be classified as a warrior. And I was like, yes, you are definitely qualified.
Yeah. Kind of like he read the handbook and he's like, I have enough hours in my classes and credits that I could be a warrior now.
Yeah.
Oh, I did love that. He, like, I loved Axe so much this book, and I'm so fucking happy that his moments of vulnerability did not feel like they were out of character. It felt like growth. I am so glad that that's how it played out.
This book just, like, further solidified why he's my favorite character. I don't know. I just love the weird, awkward position he's in and all of his conflicted feelings about it. And and, like, you know, I always say, like, my favorite parts of Axe are when he's being goofy and when he's, like, eating everything and blah, blah, blah. And it's not entirely true. Like, there was absolutely none of that in this book, but I still just, he's so complex.
He is. I understand Scholastic, but, like, after reading this book, I can't believe that they thought that Axe and Tobias were not going to be compelling enough to have their own standalone position in this series. Like, this is one of the most compelling books.
It's so interesting because they're the only two that aren't, like, you know, the human experience, right? Mm-hmm. So did they think, like, oh, humans aren't going to be able to relate to a boy who's a hawk and an alien? Oh,
that's exactly what they thought.
But...
And now, it's easier to look back with 2020 eyes and say, like, oh, you know, somebody who doesn't belong and has depression as well as, like, body dysmorphia and an alien? Yeah. Who could relate to that? And it's like, fucking everybody.
Every fucking one. And not to disparage the other kids. I love the other kids. But, like, just the way that both of Tobias and Axe were written, just, like...
That, oh my God,
so fascinating. Yeah. Like, all the characters are written well, obviously, but...
I mean, they're all written well, but, like, Axe and Tobias come from that place of not feeling secure in who you are and trying to figure it out. And all of the other characters, I love them. Obviously, Rachel's my favorite. I relate to Rachel so much. But Jake, Cassie, Rachel, Marco are sturdy in who they are. They never have those moments of, like, I'm unsure of myself and I'm unsure of this. Like, their traits are that they always know where they come from and they're genuine to themselves. And that's just not relatable all of the time because everybody has the moments of doubt and confusion. Like,
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, like they all kind of know where they belong. Like they all have, you know, maybe with the exception of Marco, they all have like kind of stable family situations. And like if you don't, then yeah, it could be hard to relate to.
Especially Cassie has a stable family. Because she lives in a barn.
I was like, I guess. I don't know. It took me a minute. Because she has horses. Oh my god.
Second time I've done this to you today.
You keep springing these good jokes on me. Fuck.
I'm so
Can't
sorry.
believe you've done this.
I'm so sorry.
Anyway, X gets a 5 billion from me.
5 gold stars from me.
For the beautiful boy. God, these books are so fucking good.
Right? Right?
I can't believe I never grew up with this. I'd probably be a completely different person if I had grown up with these books. Like, a better person.
That's completely untrue. You could not be a better person. You are amazing.
No.
But yeah, and it, like, this is why it, like, kills me when it's like, oh, the Starfish book, and it's like, but I know how good you could be. Or no, the fucking second Helmacron's book. Oh my god, I had already blocked that from my memory.
God, poor Rachel.
Poor
Rachel. Poor Rachel has the worst books. It's not her fault.
But you know what? She is such a good character that through all of that, she has never once wavered as my favorite. So, yeah. That's how I feel about Rachel.
Animorphs books. This goes in my done folder. The Resistance.
The Resistance.
There's two S's in resistance.
I like Resistance.
Resistance.
The Resistance.
Is he a beaver?
Yeah.
Angry beaver. do, 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 do. Okay. It's not a morph I would have pictured for this late in the game, but...
That's... Okay, this is the funniest part, and I know you can't look them up, but, like, there are some of the most insane covers coming up. And, like, the weirdest choices for the ending. Because, like, we were kind of ramping up, right? Like, oh, Tobias is a Texan, and blah, and it's like, oh.
Yeah, Axe is a human, and yeah.
Yeah, oh, he's a beaver now. Oh.
He's a beaver. Oh, okay.
Okay, I guess.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. I'm
yeah.
Like, all right. What cool morph is he gonna be? Oh, he's a beaver.
And then the book after that is Scott's favorite book cover. So do with that information what you will.
Wait, isn't it Elmas Chronicles next?
Oh yeah, sorry. The next maid's. You cannot look at it, by the way. That is law.
All right. How come Scott can look at it? He doesn't even read the books.
Well, Scott just goes through my bookshelf. You know him. He can't keep his fucking hands to himself.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts on this book?
No.
None?
I love my boy.
I love your boy. I love your boy so much. Okay.
He's your boy, too.
He's my boy. But, like, Rachel is my girl. Axe is your boy. Like, you know.
But they're, yeah, okay.
You know. Anyways, so if you want to email me about this book and talk about how fucking amazing it was, or send me any pedantic facts about planes or boats. Yeah, aircraft carriers. You can do that at anonymousanimorphs@gmail.com, or you can find me on Facebook, which is just Animorphs Anonymous, or our super secret, super awesome group, which is facebook.com/group/Animorphs Anonymous. We're called the Andalite Bandalites because I don't know English. You can also find us on Instagram, see my shitty images at Animorphs Anonymous, or talk to us on Twitter, where we won't talk back at Animorphs Anon.
Social media is hard.
Yes.
You can find our podcast on other podcast listening sites such as Spotify, Google Play, Pocket Cast, Stitcher, Podcast Republic, and just recently, iHeartRadio.
Oh, wow. Wow. Cool. Tell me about your comic.
I have a webcomic that I write and draw. It is called B-Side You. You can go look at that at bsideyoucomic.com. I love it.
Yes. And I am a patron of your comic. And I saw a very, very good panel recently where everybody was very upset with each other in a car, but there was no words, but they were all upset. And it said, let's talk about our feelings. And I was like, oh no, things are going awry. And that is my story about being a patron of your comic. Anyways, if you like comic books and you like Superboy, you can find me on our friends David and Drew's podcast, Cabinets to Crisis, sometimes. And yeah, I'm a very bad host. I know nothing about Superboy or Superman, so I ask a lot of dumb questions and do stupid voices. Huzzah! But it's very fun, so I keep doing it. And they keep inviting me back for reasons I'm unclear of.
Because you're an amazing person.
Because I'm a terrible host. All right, let us get out of here, or I swear to God I will come to your house and nuke you.
Wow. That's not where I thought that was going, but okay.
I will do it.
I'm frightened and concerned. And I'm comfortable with the aura we've created in this podcast.
Okay, bye.
Bye.